What's up YouTube? In this video, I'm going to be talking about some culture shocks you may experience coming from the West if you're coming to China for the first time. I wanted to share these experiences with you so that you're not caught off guard for anything that may seem a little bit odd and that you're a little bit more prepared. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, the first culture shock, and it got me good, was hot water. What I mean by hot water is that Chinese people tend to only drink hot water or hot tea because they believe it's healthier for your body, better for your digestion, which it probably is. I'm not a doctor, I don't know. However, I was brought up where I love my ice water, my ice drinks, and all that. So when you come here and you ask for water, it's all gonna be room temperature or hot. Now you gotta ask for cold water, but even when you ask for cold water, they may not have cold water or they may not even have ice, so just be a little prepared. Especially if you go to the rural areas or more like traditional areas that aren't in the city center, don't expect them to have cold water. Something that also got me is where there's, water dispensers. There's usually like the red for the hot and the blue for the cold. The blue is not cold. The blue is room temperature or hot. And then the red is like super hot, like boiling hot. But anyways, just want to let you know. Second one I want to talk about are toilets. Yeah, it's a little bit weird that I gotta mention toilets, but if you don't go to like a 4 or 5 star hotel or in the city center, expect the toilets to be on the floor, like a little hole in the floor. You can actually see a lot of Chinese people here when you come here squat really deep. Like I have problems squatting that deep. Even if I use a squat rack, I have problems squatting that deep. And it's because they were raised in an environment where they had to use toilets that were on the floor, so they're really good at squatting. And although it may look uncomfortable to us, it's a very comfortable position for them. So when you come here, and you go to like the traditional areas or the rural areas, don't expect to have any Western toilets where you can just sit down casually and do your business. No, you're gonna have to squat. Now it doesn't mean that Western toilets don't exist here. I've gotten really good at finding Western toilets, like usually like the Western restaurants or the high-end malls and the hotels all have Western toilets. The next culture shock is for you vegetarians out there or your vegans, the display of food. So when they serve food here in China, you can expect some dead animals to be out and displayed in the public, and this isn't like anything out of the ordinary in China. So you can expect like dead ducks or dead chickens just being laid out or hung up on some hooks on the outside of a restaurant. And a lot of people like to choose, okay, I want that duck right there, I want that duck. So just be a little prepared if you're very sensitive to seeing dead animals out in public. So if you are like vegetarian or very sensitive to seeing dead animals, I would try to avoid the food marketplaces and all that. You can also ask your hotel what places to avoid, but you're probably gonna see it anyways, even in the high-end places, like we see them all the time. This next one may not be a surprise to you because it's not just a Chinese thing. It's actually in a lot of the places of the world that I've been to. Queuing. So queuing doesn't really exist here. It varies like in different places, but for the most part, especially if it's something public, like public transportation, or like a famous touristic area, don't expect there to be like formal queues. There are just too many people here and they all just want to get first come, first serve. Just go ahead, get your ticket or get on the train or all that. So don't expect any of these queues to be here. Now, if you do confront them and say, hey, I was in line, why'd you cut in line? You have to learn to speak Chinese though. They'll be like, okay, like they'll be polite, but their first reaction is not going to be to queue up. The first reaction is just to see how quickly they can get their transaction. The next one is escalator etiquette. So where I was from, I'm used to right side you stand, left side you walk. If you're like in a rush, yeah, that's not going to happen here. You can see a lot of the public transportation places, especially during peak hours, they don't have time for that. There's too many people, it's very crowded, so they're just gonna stand on both sides of the escalator. Now you have to sympathize a little bit because if they were to just form a single file line for people that are standing on the right, it would actually make the line longer for everybody. So they all just stand on the escalator at the same time. However, if you just ask, excuse me, I'm trying to get through, they will move out of the way. But since there are so many people in the way, you just kind of just deal with it. So just be prepared for that. The next one may not seem so obvious to you guys when you get here, but especially if you're living here and you're trying to rent an apartment or a house, don't expect there to be dryers. I haven't found any dryers yet here, but if I do, I'll definitely make a video. But I'm used to getting my clothes done within an hour and a half, like 45 minutes washer, 45 minutes dryer, smells nice, good to go. No, here you can see in a lot of apartment complexes, they actually hang their clothes out to dry. Now this may take like another 3 or 4 hours, and if it's raining, you're kind of out of luck. But don't expect them to have dryers here, you just gotta get used to it. On the bright side, your clothes do last longer time. On the downside, they take a lot longer to get dry for you to actually wear the next day. But don't expect any dryers here. Next culture shock, attention. What I mean by attention, if you are a unique looking foreigner, like a minority, maybe red hair with blue eyes, or even just like a regular foreigner, doesn't matter where you're from, you may get points and stares. Now they're not doing this to be rude, this is just because they may not have seen foreigners in their life, and they're like, wow, there's a foreigner here. Actually, they may even ask you to take a photo with them. You can feel like a celebrity for a day, be like, yeah, what's up, you know. But don't take it to heart when they point and say, hey, you're a foreigner. There's a lot of people here just maybe never seen a foreigner, or they want to practice their English, so you may have little kids, that happens all the time. With me, they come around and they say, hey, how's it going? Hey, where are you from? You know, just to start up small talk and practice their English. So just do be ready for this if it does happen. Okay, the next culture shock I'm going to talk to is Chinese questioning. What I mean by this is that every year during Chinese New Year's or the Spring Festival, usually parents and grandparents ask the young children a bunch of questions. They also consider it an interrogation. I think in China it's called 中国式盘问, which means like Chinese style interrogation. Now you can guess what they ask here. They ask like 4 or 5 different things. Like, do you have a house yet? Or do you have an apartment? Do you have a good job? Are you getting a raise? Are you gonna have kids? Are you married yet? You know, they're gonna ask you all that. So they've been brought up in this environment where like every year or frequently throughout the year, may not have to be during Chinese New Year's, they get asked these questions. So when they see foreigners and they know that you can speak and communicate with them in Chinese, or if they know a little bit of English, they may ask you these questions too. Don't get too offended though. Like, it's just something they do in their day-to-day lives, and they probably get asked from their parents, and they get a lot of pressure from their parents and grandparents all the time. So like, for example, me, I've been on multiple taxi trips. I like chatting with the taxi drivers just to see what's up. And they would ask me like, how much do you get paid? Where do you live? Do you have a house? Do you have an apartment? Are you married? You know, all that stuff. So they get really personal and direct with you. So don't get offended if this happens, because it may happen to you. The last one I'm going to cover is public transportation. And if you want to see a little bit more details about public transportation, I made a video. You can link it up right here. Just click right there if you want to see how to take public transportation in China. But what I mean by public transportation is if you go during peak times, expect it to be crowded, like super duper crowded. I know some of you are used to personal space, right? Like usually like a meter around you, personal space, no one up in your business. Not in this case. So there's too many people. There sometimes aren't enough trains. Some people will do everything they can to get on that train, and they will bump you, or they will like touch your shoulder. Like there's no personal space, so don't expect any of that here. If you don't travel public transportation during peak hours, you should be all right. I'm just letting you know, if you're in very crowded tourist areas or very popular areas in the city during peak hours, no personal space, man. So I hope you learned something about some culture shocks you may experience here if you're coming to China for the first time. If you want to know more about the lifestyle or learn some tips and tricks as a foreigner in China, please smash that like button, and also consider subscribing. I post videos like this every week. And if you've been to China before, let me know what your biggest culture shock was in the comments below. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.